Why Disney hates their annual pass holders. It's no longer news that Disney has been in a rather awkward position with its annual pass holders lately. Annual pass holders, which were once very important revenue drivers for Disney parks, now seem to be nothing but a thorn in the company's flesh. From increasing the prices of the annual passes to stripping the pass holders of their greatest prize of all, which is the flexibility of coming into the park whenever they want, it's beginning to seem like Disney doesn't really want its annual pass holders to visit the parks. An emotion that is likely shared by the annual pass holders themselves, as lately they've taken to social media to express their blatant disappointment in the company. In this video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into why Disney seemingly doesn't really care for its annual pass holders. I know hate's a pretty big word, but what else can I say? Anyway, let's get right into it. What are annual passes and why do they even matter? Disney first introduced passes in 1982 as a way to save guests money on returning visits. Instead of the park-loving guests having to pay every single time they visit the park, they get an option to pay an annual fee for a pass that'll get them into the parks all year round. Though the initial costs are way more expensive than a single day's ticket. Now, Disney said they introduced these passes as a way of saving guests money. But is that all there is to it? Well, I don't think so. You see, the logic behind the annual pass was to get guests to keep coming back over and over again, which meant that they'll keep spending money on food, merchandise, and everything else Disney has to offer while they were there. And of course, this equals more revenue for Disney. Sounds like a great revenue-generating strategy, right? So why the sudden change of emotion towards their once-beloved annual pass holders? You see, everything was going very well according to plan, with both annual pass holders and single-ticket customers enjoying Disneyland and Disney World without any issues, until the coronavirus pandemic struck. We can all agree that things haven't been the same since the pandemic. There's been a lot of changes. Everybody's been getting their fair share of it, and Disney has not been immune to these changes too. In line with COVID protocol, the company has had to cut down the crowd at their parks. Now, since Disney can't accommodate as much crowd as they used to, they have no other option but to choose the crowd that brings in more revenue. So which is it going to be? Annual pass holders or single-ticket customers? I'm guessing you already know the answer to this, but let's look at it a bit more logically. Disney's annual pass holders are mainly local residents, and from statistics, it has been shown that these local residents tend to spend less on food, drinks, and souvenirs than visitors coming from afar. Also, because these annual pass holders are mostly locals who live nearby, they're less likely to spend money on booking a reservation in Disney-operated hotels. Now think about single-ticket buyers on the other hand. Think about a family who has saved up for years to go to Disneyland. They're more likely to buy food, souvenirs, and stay at a Disney-owned hotel. This means a higher revenue for Disney, and even though there's been a lot of increments on the prices of annual passes lately, the overall revenue from sales of annual passes is still significantly less than that of single-ticket sales. Basically, the more single tickets they sell daily, the more daily revenue they get. And this sums up to way more than what comes in from the sale of the annual passes. So the bottom line here is that Disney parks get more revenue from single-ticket customers. But then, with the annual passes being a thriving Disney tradition for more than 40 years, Disney has been able to build a deep relationship with the local residents. Most of them have been lifelong visitors of the park. Some of them often refer to the park as a key part of their lives. From celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, and engagements, to celebrating other key milestones with their friends and families at the Disney parks, you can tell that the parks really hold great memories for them. And these annual passes were a pretty solid incentive to reward this deep level of customer loyalty. Yikes! It looks like Disney had to make some really tough choices. Should they favor the single-ticket crowd, which obviously brings in more revenue, or should they preserve the loyalty and memories of the local customers who've been annual pass holders for years? At this point, I guess it's already obvious where Disney stands on the matter. I mean, Disney's CEO clearly said it himself. In his own words, As you know, different guests, depending on where they're coming from, have different relative value in terms of their contribution as a guest to the park. And typically, someone who travels and stays for 5 to 7 days is marginally more valuable to the business than someone who comes in on an annual pass and stays a day or two and consumes less. You know, merchandise and food and beverages. So the way I would look at it is that it's just as that constituency changes a little bit, so do our overall margins change. If we needed any more indication that Disney's no longer excited about its annual pass holders, that right there was it. Yes, annual pass holders spend money on the park too, but we've already established the fact that the single ticket buyers spend more. And for Disney, it's all about the money. It's such an irony though, that the annual pass holders, who used to be such a beloved part of the company, have now become nothing but an inconvenience to the company. Where they're coming from is totally understandable though. I mean, think about it. If they're going to limit the number of guests that can come into the park, it's only logical that those whom they let in should bring in higher value. But in retrospect, it's also understandable that guests who have been nothing but loyal annual pass customers to Disney for years would feel upset about this choice, and how this situation makes it seem like Disney has nothing but hate for them. For 4 good decades, Disney annual pass holders have always been accustomed to getting the VIP treatment. And now this. Talk about a messy breakup. But at the end of the day, it's just business, and Disney is a profit-driven company after all. There's only one question on our minds though. Is this a sustainable strategy? While Disney's choice is definitely understandable, one can't help but wonder if it's going to be sustainable in the long run. I mean, think about it. Throwing away the years of such profound customer relationships and loyalty in order to rake in more revenue? As expected, the annual pass holders are not taking this decision so well, with what seems to them like a big betrayal from the company. Most have begun to opt out of the annual passes and are setting their sights elsewhere. It seems that Disney might actually have more to lose from their decision. Do you think putting money over their annual pass holders' loyalty is going to be effective for the company in the long run? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time.